Now we have seen how to create a table, and if I try to recreate any other table with the same name, it's going to give me an error. It's not going to care about the columns in that case, it's just going to care about the name. Now, why is that a big issue? You have seen the data set that we provided prior to starting on SQL. It has all the queries separated by semicolons. If you face a problem within a query, it's going to stop at that point and it's not going to run the rest of your code. Now we want to allow skipping that line of code and going through the next. Now let me show you what I mean. If I click this, I got an error down here because the table already exists, a table student already exists, and then it did not run this command. Now, how to avoid this in the table creation? After create table command, I will say if not exists. So create table if not exists. So it's going to check, do I have that table in the database? If the table is not there, it's going to create it. If the table is there, it's going to just skip this command. Now if I run this, it just skipped the first one, went to my second query like nothing happened. And this is a good practice when you want to create tables and you want to avoid errors. Now after creating table, we may need to modify the table. Now to modify the table, we will use the alter table command, and we will use the add clause to add a column. We will use modify to change column data type. We will use change if we need to change the column's name and data type, or even the name, but you will have to specify the data type again. We will use drop column to remove a column. And finally, we will use rename table to something else to change the table's name. So let's see how we can do all of these. I will just take this out, and I will keep the describe query to show me the change right away after I'm done with this. Now suppose that I want to add a column. Alter table, and then you will specify your table name, which is student in this case. And what I want to do with student is I want to add a column. So you'll say add, and in parentheses you will specify your column or list of columns and their data type. So I will add my column, and this is going to be, let's have a date. So I have date to be added to my student table, and if I run this, now I have my call called date, and this is how you can add a column. Now you can add multiple columns, so call new column, and this is going to be decimal, and then second new column, and this is going to be let's just have it a varchar again, and let me have it as 10, for example. If you run this, you see the columns that I just added. Now this is how to add a column to an existing table. Now suppose that for one of the columns that I added, like for example for my column, I made it a date data type. Now I need to change it. You will need to use the alter table again, but you will need to go and use modify instead of add. So alter table student, and what I need to do is I'll say modify, and then I will have my column that I want to modify. So I want to modify my column, and instead of date, let me have it as integer. When we run this, Now if you look at my column, it's integer again. I didn't have to specify that, okay, it is date, go change it to integer. No. Just say modify, put the column name that you want to modify, and then specify the new data type that you want to have for that column. Change is going to allow you to change the data type as well, but you will have to specify the column name again. So for example, let's use change. So change. So for change, you will specify the column. So change my column to date of birth and make it date again. See, now I have date of birth, it's date. So if you say change, you have to specify the old column name followed by the new column name followed by the new data type. Again, for modify, it's just going to change the data type. You just have to specify the column name and the new data type. For change, it's changing the name and the data type. You don't have to change the data type. You can keep the same data type, but you will have to specify it. So you will specify the old column name followed by the new column definition, including the new column name and new data type for that column. Now, how do I remove a column? Now, I added these two columns, but I don't actually need them. So the column removal is quite easy. You'll say drop, and then you specify the column that you want to drop. So drop new column. And if I run this, new column is gone. Let me drop the second new column. If I run it, that's gone as well. So this is how you can drop columns or remove columns from your database. Now, what's left is let's try to rename the table. So suppose that I don't want it to be called student. Let's call it something else. So in this case, you will not use alter table. Rename table, and then you specify the table name student 2, and then you specify the new table name. So let's rename it into students or STU, for example. Now see what's gonna happen. It's gonna rename it, but this is not gonna work. See? Now if I update, I don't have student anymore, because student is now STU. Now if I do this, STU, and I don't need this. Now I run it. Now STU is my table that's got all my data. And this is how you modify the tables in terms of columns, in terms of names. Now I didn't cover dropping and truncating, because I want to use this table for data first, and I cannot truncate a table without any data because it's already truncated. But I don't want to drop the table because I want to use it first, and then we'll see how we can drop it.